Hi, my name's Tim Baxter. I'm the community lead at Rewiring Australia, and I have a long history of working in sort of community organising and working for not-for-profits. I have worked for Renew, I've worked for the Victorian Clean Tech Cluster, I've worked for the Victorian Greens in working with volunteers and trying to support them and get the best out of them. I also have a couple of terms on local council under my belt as well, a few years ago now, but also have a lot of experience with local government as well, which has been very helpful actually with working with a lot of local groups because they work with local government too. So today, what I would like to share with everyone is our newly launched tool, Electric Saul. I'm going to talk a little bit about how Electric Saul came to be, what the purpose of it is, how you as community leaders can use it in your conversations around electrification with people, what's on the horizon, and also, of course, take you through a little run through of what it looks like as well. I shall bring up my slides. Okay, so we're here to introduce Electric Saul. I guess the first question is why did we build this tool? So first off, what we needed to do was we needed to increase the reach and the scale of our messaging. Obviously, Rewiring Australia has fact sheets, we have information, we have local groups that can talk to people, but the fact sheets in particular, they're static. You can't ask them questions. And when you have local people as well, you can ask them questions. Sometimes those questions can be quite technical. What we wanted was one overall tool that could reach everyone, give them the answers that they need, and have the power to do that. And we worked with Google on their Google Gemini platform to develop this AI tool. AI, obviously, lots of pros, lots of cons, but one of the things that it can definitely do is it can be accessible to everyone who has an internet connection, basically. And the purpose of Electric Saul is really it's closing that intent to action gap, right? So people may want to do something about their home and take some action on electrification, but they don't really know where to start. It can be very confusing, it can be very intimidating. There's lots of people out there in the market who are wanting to sell you stuff, oversell you stuff, rip you off, all sorts of things like that. And closing that gap with having a tool that people can ask questions of, get reliable answers, and arm them a little bit more for going out into that world and figuring out what they want to do. And the idea is that it would give reliable, personalized guidance. So rather than a fact sheet that just talks about averages or things like that, you can actually work iteratively with the tool. You can go back and forth and talk about your personal circumstances and get advice tailored to your personal circumstances. I'll be clear though, the advice does not go as far as recommending any particular installers or anything like that. We're still independent and we need to maintain that trusted independence. But it will be able to tell you, for example, that in your circumstance, it might be better to go for a heat pump or something like that. Electric Saul's role would really be in the place that we've got in this diagram here, where at the top you've got the unaware or the uninterested. Then you've got the people that are just curious or whatever. But Electric Saul then comes in to bridge the gap between the people who are curious or ready to upgrade and right into them getting quotes and installer conversations. So basically, I talked a little bit about how we got here already, but we wanted to find a way to essentially make Saul available to everyone. Everyone wants to go and just ask Saul a bunch of questions about what they should do with their home. And there's only so many hours in that man's day, and we cannot shop him around everywhere. We've had many conversations about how great it would be if we could clone him. This is one element of him that we can clone is his expertise and knowledge and putting that into the knowledge base of this AI tool. So obviously we partnered with Google to fund that and support that through the testing. So we've talked about the fact that this is an AI tool, and there have been people in our networking and community that have expressed concerns around the some of the negative connotations around AI and its power use and water use and things like that. All of those are very valid concerns around AI and data centers and how things are going to be managed going forward. The reason why we decided to use an AI tool is so that we can reach many more people. And it was really important to us to actually run the numbers on how efficient these queries are. Is it actually churning through huge amounts of electricity to have these conversations? And generally, it's not. A lot of the hugely power intensive work of AI is usually done in things like image and video generation, whereas these sort of text conversations are nowhere near as energy intensive. And in fact, they're reasonably energy inefficient, and particularly energy efficient if you take into account the amount of people that will likely change their behavior because of the conversation. There is information here in terms of what kind of difference it could make. So Electric Saul advice uses like running a kettle for 2.4 minutes, which wouldn't actually be enough to boil the water. But if someone made an upgrade, then their 1 year of rooftop solar would generate just about 200,000 times the energy of one Electric Saul session. Obviously, we've got to manage this and make sure that we maintain that efficiency as much as possible. But I think the benefits definitely outweigh the costs here. All right, so it is now time to go through a bit of a walkthrough of the tool. Okay, and here we are with Electric Saul. So this is our launch page. Obviously, it's just launched. There may still be errors or problems. Please do let us know if you see anything, but for the most part, this should be a complete tool that's ready to go. As we can see here, we've got a front page. We've got a lovely picture of Saul there, and we actually have just a couple of little things to fill out before we get started. So I'm going to put in my postcode, 3183, and I'll say owner occupier. And basically, I'm just going to fill this out sort of as me. And you can have a look at some of the things that you can see. So here we have what we call our page one, which is tell me about your home. What we can see here, I've actually already filled this out before, that's why it's pre-filled, but it might not be for you. So basically what you can do is you can go through each of the different parts of the home and explain what you've got. For me, for my heating, I've got reverse cycle AC. For my hot water, I've got instant gas. Cooktop is a gas cooktop. I live in an apartment unit and I've got 4 occupants. Again, I've already done this. So I don't have rooftop solar, don't have a home battery, and I have a small hatchback. I will say here, continue your plan. For you, it would probably say begin your plan. So there's all those. Let's start again to demonstrate this tool to others, please. So basically, you just have a little chat box there that you can talk to Electric Saul, and Electric Saul will talk back to you. So let's run through the playbook from scratch to show how we map out a whole home electrification plan. So the goal is simple: replace every fossil fuel machine in your household with a highly efficient electric version powered by clean energy. So to kick off a plan, what's the biggest fossil fuel burner in your household right now? And you have a couple of options here. You can pick from the pre-made options that Electric Saul gives you, or you can type in an answer at any time if you want to say, yeah, it's not exactly that, or there's a slight complication there or whatever. But let's just say that in my case, it's the gas hot water. So he's going to figure out his answer. Okay, so we're talking about water heating. Talks a little bit about some of the stats about efficiency and how much you can save. So it talks to me already. I've put in my postcode, so it talks to me about what the Victorian rebates are, right? So we'll tailor it to the information that you've given it. Now, you may be able to give it more information. For example, if you're in New South Wales, if you give it certain information, it may talk to you about your possible eligibility for the no interest finance that they've just brought in New South Wales, for example. So it will know based on what you tell it what to recommend you. So in Victoria, you get a solar Victoria rebate, which I'm not eligible for because household income is not under 150K, unfortunately. But I'll tell Electric Saul that in a second. But he's asked the question, is your current gas system an instantaneous unit or does it have a storage tank? So it's an instantaneous unit. And he's going to give me a response again. So basically what we're doing is, as he continues to ask questions, as you continue to provide information, he'll give you a more and more detailed plan as you go through. So here's how they break it down, what the problem is, what the solution, what the savings, what the rebates are on offer, and even talking about the minimum standards in Victoria that are coming into place. So it does talk about the practical hurdles, and that's fine. I can just say, just to let you know, I am not eligible for the solar Vic rebate. Can we plan out how to switch over my hot water? And so that's not choosing one of the pre-existing options there. I'm actually throwing a bit of a curveball, Electric Saul, here and saying, by the way, I just want to let you know the thing you said before, I'm not actually eligible for, so take that off the table. And let's go straight to planning the how to switch over from the hot water rather than talking about something else. So then they talk about the STCs, the VU discounts, talking about how much you can get off, talking about the tank capacity, and yeah, all of this stuff, and talking about strata approval. So that's just giving some information. And then he says, to get started, would you like to know what specific questions you should ask a plumber when they come to quote so you don't get stung with unexpected installation costs? I can say, yes, please. So you can get advice on what should you say to tradies, what sort of conversations should you be having. One of the things that I probably won't have time to look at it in this demo, but one of the things you can do is once you get some quotes, you can actually upload those quotes because down here you can attach files to the prompt, and you can upload your quotes and say, help me compare these, right? Because they've given me slightly different things and I don't know, I don't want to compare apples to oranges. I want to know what the apples are and what the oranges are. And Electric Saul can help you do that. So he's given me some of the questions that I can ask the plumber, which is great, around rebate, physical layout and noise, electrical requirements, and so on. He's asked a bit of an open-ended question there. How does that sound as a starting point? And then you can just respond. If you feel like you need more, if you say, look, I'm still a bit unsure about this, you can continue to ask questions and get more clarification around that. So I think I'll probably stop the demo and we can go back to talking about what is on the horizon. The information comes from Saul's data, Saul's books, as well as government websites and things like that, particularly around the rebates and stuff like that. That all comes directly from government websites and it's updated in real time as well, so that if those change, that changes. But yeah, basically Saul's research, Rewiring Australia's research all goes into the back end there. It's out there online now. If you just Google Electric Saul, you'll be able to go straight to the website and anybody can use it. So that is there just as a direct to user tool. But what I would say is the more powerful use case for it, in my view, is as a tool to elevate a community conversation, right? So if you're talking to someone about electrification, you can say, hey, let me just bring up Electric Saul on my phone or your phone or whatever as we're having this conversation so that you can ask the questions and let's ask Electric Saul the questions and let's see how we go. And particularly because if people put in that information on their phone, they can actually log back in later and it'll all be there. They can see what their plan is. So the idea is make this available to as many people as possible for free and just try and get as many people to make their plan as possible. Okay. All right. And so next is to talk about what's on the horizon. What are the kinds of things, the kinds of functionalities that don't currently exist for Electric Saul, but we would like to explore in the future. On the horizon, being able to improve Saul's advice and estimates, that's an ongoing thing. We will continually try and make sure that there's better and tighter numbers around the advice and the estimates. When Electric Saul says you should be able to save this much by getting a battery or whatever, that should be as accurate as possible. It isn't always because your mileage will vary, right? But the more information you do give to Saul about your circumstances, the better and tighter that figure can be. Another thing on the horizon is being able to do multiple households at once in the same logins. You may be a landlord who wants to look at the benefits of doing a couple of your properties or doing your home and your investment property, perhaps. We want to improve the sharing functionality so that whatever plan you make with Saul can be a bit more easily shared. with others. We want to be able to improve artifact functionality. So that means it would have a dedicated email/documents view so that you can actually go through all of the documents that you've uploaded to Electric Saul and go through them and put things in and pull them out in order to enhance the conversation that you're having. And again, providing more of that information for Saul to give you that advice. One of the key things that I think is really important is that obviously people are putting in their postcode to start the process with Electric Saul. And we have over 100 local community groups in our Electric Communities network filled with fantastic local volunteers who can give really great local advice. So what I would like going forward is for us to be able to build in the functionality that I've put in 3183 as my postcode. I would like to be able to have a conversation with Saul that then ends in Saul going, yep. And if you want to talk to locals about it, your local group is Electrify Southside, and here's their contact details, and here's how you can get in touch with them, so that we can actually use this as a bit of a funnel to actually push users into the community group network so that they can not only get fantastic advice from the tool itself, but also just from go and talk to your neighbors. You might want to say, oh, hey, Jim lives a couple of streets away from me and he's in this local group. I'm going to talk to him because I know he got solar and he's got a similar kind of roof to mine. I want to go and ask him some particular questions, or I want to ask questions about who are the best local electricians, or whatever it might be. Those sort of local questions that are best answered by local people. We want to improve renter specific experience. So, obviously a lot of what you saw in the tool there is around, I did put in that I was an owner occupier. So obviously the conversation was going to be geared towards that, but we want to be able to have more functionality there to assist renters in electrifying. And then we'd love to also have in there the ability to look up household solar potential. So to be able to use Google Earth and things like that to satellite view your roof. You can put in your address, satellite view your roof, and get an estimate of what your solar potential could be. How suitable is your roof? Is it north facing, and all of those sorts of things, which honestly, that's what a lot of solar companies do use for their desktop assessments. When you call them up and you want to get a quote, as they start off by doing that. We'd love to be able to build that into our functionality. So that is Electric Saul. I'm going to take it back to the website, and basically I would encourage people to go to just Google Electric Saul. They will come to the page that I showed before, which is this one. And yeah, basically this is your one-stop shop. So not only can you start the process right at the top there, but you can also see what Electric Saul can do. And then some stuff about Saul himself, and even some demo videos and some other FAQs and things like that. So please do go to the website for more information, but I encourage you to just go in there, play around with it, and put yourself in the shoes of a user who doesn't know anything. I know that most of the people watching this probably you do know some things, but if you put yourself in the shoes of someone who's just completely new to this but interested, and play with the tool, we'd love to see what you think of it. And of course, in the menu section of there, you can give feedback as well. So you can say, oh, hey, I don't know, this answer was wrong. I wanted to talk about this, but it was misunderstanding me, or something like that. Hopefully that shouldn't happen too much now because we've done most of our testing, but I'm sure there'll still be bits and bobs that we need to look at. So please feel free to. And that concludes my demonstration of Electric Saul. We want people to be able to upload their bills and say, could I be on a better plan? They can upload quotes and get comparisons and really just utilize the power of this as much as possible. Right. Another thing to note as well is I talked very much about the household there, but of course you can talk about the merits of different EVs, how they stack up against one another in terms of power, range, costs, storage capacity, all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of these tools around the internet about comparing bills, and so that same functionality that they use has been built into Saul. So we've just launched our Rewiring New South Wales Communities program. So that is a program where we're going to deliver all sorts of things in terms of research, creating resources and materials, providing training, and so on. But one element of it is that we are offering subgrants to all sorts of different community organizations. So we're going to be working with 15 organizations at different tiers, and these are funding tiers. So there's a gold tier of funding, which is $30,000, that to run either a very, very large expo style event that reaches a huge amount of people, 2,000 or something like that people, or a roadshow or series of events or something like that reaches a similar amount. We've got our silver tier, which is 15,000. This could be delivering all sorts of different things. It could be directly just engaging consumers. It could be train the trainer. It could be working with councils or whatever. If we see that there's a real benefit there, and then it's getting out into the community and having a big impact and changing things and meeting our goals, we'll definitely look at it. And then we've got a bronze tier, which is $5,000, and that's for running good events, the kinds of normal community engagement events that often change a lot of people's minds, or at least get them started on the pathway to electrification. But again, we'll also be quite interested in looking at left field things. The main thing that we're trying to do with those 15 organizations is to get a good spread geographically, demographically. We want to be able to reach renewable energy zones. We want to be able to reach inner city to rural and regional to suburban to multicultural communities. We're quite interested in looking at sporting communities, faith communities, all of these sorts of things, because the aim is to, yes, meet those areas in which our message resonates really well, but we also want to find those new audiences as well. This is the closest we can get to cloning Saul.